I've been in a relationship with my fiancé, Marcus, for 4 years. We became engaged 7 months back, and our wedding is scheduled for October. I say scheduled because right now, I'm truly unsure if there will even be a ceremony, and that devastates me since I adore this man more than anyone else in my life. But there's this issue, or rather, this individual. Her name is Leela, and she's been Marcus's closest companion since childhood. They were neighbors growing up, shared all experiences, the full story. They hail from the same tiny town in Wisconsin, and relocated to Minneapolis around the same period. When Marcus and I began dating, he was very transparent about Leela, explaining she was essentially like a sibling to him, that they'd faced everything side by side. And she was irreplaceable in his world. And honestly, I'm not the type who believes guys and girls can't maintain platonic friendships. I have male buddies myself. My sibling's spouse is fine with his women friends. It's not that. I attempted to be accepting of Leela. I truly did. During the initial year, I went out of my way to form a connection with this lady. However, she never truly allowed me an opportunity. From the start, there was this vibe. You know that sensation when you sense someone dislikes you? She'd grin at me, but her gaze was utterly lifeless. She'd inquire about my life, but then swiftly shift topics before I could complete my response. She'd share private jokes with Marcus directly in my presence, and then say, "Oh, apologies, you wouldn't understand, it's from our school days." Each time we spent time together, I felt like an outsider interrupting, but I convinced myself I was overthinking it. Marcus repeatedly mentioned that Leela needs time to connect with others, that she's guarding him due to past heartbreaks he'd endured, that once she noticed how joyful I made him, she'd warm up. So I persisted. I asked her out for lunch. I noted her birthday. I sought her suggestions on gifts for Marcus. I was handling it all correctly, yet she still viewed me as some casual fling Marcus picked up at a pub. The first significant event occurred roughly 6 months into our romance. Marcus's birthday approached, and I'd organized a complete celebration with his other pals, a meal at his preferred restaurant, a surprise gathering afterward at our buddy Derek's home. The entire setup. I'd arranged it for weeks. Then, 3 days prior to his birthday, Leela messages him stating she'd already arranged a private event for them. Some custom they share where they return to their hometown for his birthday weekend. She'd reserved a lodge already, informed his mother they were arriving, didn't invite me along. Didn't verify if he had prior commitments. Zero consideration. And this is what infuriated me. Marcus didn't instantly decline. He actually appeared torn and began discussing how they'd maintained this ritual since age 16, and he hated to disappoint Leela. I just gazed at him like, "Are you kidding me? I'm your partner. I've coordinated your birthday for weeks, and your reaction to learning your female bestie booked a weekend lodge getaway with you is to contemplate attending." That evening marked our first big argument. I stated clearly that this was unsuitable and he must inform Leela he couldn't join. He became irritated with me. Claimed I was turning it into more than it was, that Leela was akin to kin. I countered that if she were kin, she'd have involved me in the arrangements. He suggested she likely figured I wouldn't enjoy a dull, small town. I replied she figured that because she preferred me absent. We debated endlessly until he finally consented to notify Leela he couldn't participate in the lodge plans this year. But this is what truly bothered me. When he phoned Leela to back out, she began weeping, like outright sobbing, claiming she'd already covered all costs, that this custom meant so much to her she'd anticipated it for months. And Marcus glanced at me with this face as if I were the villain, as if I were irrational for opposing my boyfriend's overnight excursion with another lady. He did ultimately cancel. Leela remained distant toward me for months afterward, and Marcus kept mentioning how distressed she'd been. That established the pattern for the following 3.5 years. For every celebration, every achievement, every key occasion, Leela would somehow insert herself or vie for Marcus's focus. She'd phone him amid our romantic evenings with some emergency. She'd arrive at his place without warning when I was present. She'd upload old pictures of them on social platforms with descriptions like "my soulmate" and "no one understands me like you." When we began cohabiting, she actually wept and told Marcus she sensed she was losing him. And each time I raised how uneasy this made me, Marcus would protect her. He'd claim I was overanalyzing. He'd say Leela was simply an expressive individual. He'd insist I should address my insecurities since this envy wasn't beneficial. That term, envy. He's used that against me likely 100 times across 4 years, as if it should conclude the discussion. As if labeling me envious means I must quiet down and tolerate whatever Leela does. I'm not envious. I'm not unsure of myself. I'm an adult who can recognize the obvious, and the obvious is another woman desiring my fiancé. The getaway incident occurred last summer, and it truly forced me to view the entire scenario differently. Marcus and I had organized a journey to Portugal for our 3-year milestone, solely us. I'd been thrilled because we seldom had genuine solitude, and this would be 10 days of discovery and companionship. I'd saved for months. We'd selected lodgings together, decided on destinations, created a full schedule. 2 weeks before departure, Marcus returns home and informs me Leela is facing tough times. Her mother was ill, and she'd recently ended a relationship, needing an escape. And wouldn't it be kind if she joined us in Portugal? He mentioned it so nonchalantly, like suggesting we grab bread on the way back. I actually chuckled, assuming it was a jest. When I saw he was serious, I questioned if he'd gone mad. This was our milestone vacation. We'd prepared for half a year, and he wished to include Leela. He accused me of selfishness, stated Leela required assistance, and he couldn't desert her in distress. I suggested then organize a separate outing with her. Why our trip? That escalated into our most intense dispute ever. He claimed I was placing him in an unfeasible spot, that Leela was his longest companion, and I was forcing a choice. I clarified, no, you're choosing by even proposing this. I said a typical best friend wouldn't impose on a couple's milestone journey, and a typical boyfriend wouldn't entertain it. He revealed Leela hadn't imposed. He extended the invitation. And that worsened it, frankly. We clashed for days. I wept, he grew annoyed, I wept further. Eventually, I relented because I was worn out and figured perhaps I was too strict. Maybe it wouldn't be awful. Maybe Leela's presence would aid in finally connecting with her. Lord, I was so naive. Portugal turned into a disaster. Leela joined every meal, every excursion, every dusk, every instant. When Marcus and I attempted solo activities, she'd sulk and claim exclusion. She continually recalled past journeys she and Marcus shared pre-me, locations visited, adventures had. She'd clasp his arm during walks. She'd position beside him at eateries rather than opposite, leaving me isolated on my side. One evening at this stunning rooftop lounge viewing the sunset, I stepped to the restroom, and upon return she was nearly reclining on him, murmuring in his ear. And they ceased conversing upon spotting me. I challenged Marcus about it later in our suite, and he still shielded her, claiming I was spoiling the vacation with my demeanor, that Leela was merely sociable, that I should unwind. I stated tolerating another woman murmuring to my fiancé at a romantic sunset spot isn't something to unwind about. He labeled me overdramatic. That vacation altered me profoundly. I ceased efforts to win Leela's approval. I stopped feigning all was well. Upon return, I began observing closely how she behaved around Marcus and me, and the closer I observed, the more I noticed her constant touches. Subtle contacts on his arm, shoulder, back. She'd position too near. She'd create reasons for solitude with him. She'd remark on her deep knowledge of him in a pointed manner, as if emphasizing her longer history. She'd evoke memories excluding me. She'd allude to upcoming plans involving only them, and she remained polite to my face throughout. That's what made it so sneaky. She wasn't overtly rude, she simply rendered me unseen. Around 3 months post-Portugal, I observed Marcus distancing somewhat. He became more snappish with me, faster to irritate, less tender. I inquired if anything troubled him, and he blamed work stress. I probed for more, and he became oddly protective. This persisted for weeks, and I struggled to identify the shift. Then one evening at Derek's for a game event, I overheard something that connected everything. I'd headed to the kitchen for beverages, and Leela was in the corridor on her phone, unaware of me. She was conversing with someone, perhaps her sibling, and mentioned my name. So naturally, I paused and eavesdropped. She was expressing confusion over what Marcus saw in me, that I was dull and ordinary and not particularly attractive. That she'd been advising Marcus for months he could find better, but he ignored it. That I was hindering him, and he merited someone equal. That she was addressing it, though, addressing it. Like dismantling us was her task. I remained frozen for perhaps a full minute, absorbing what I'd heard. This lady who'd grinned at me all evening, who'd praised my jewelry upon arrival, who'd embraced me greeting, had been deliberately undermining my bond. For months, possibly longer, I avoided confronting her then. I was too stunned, and frankly, I preferred discussing with Marcus first. I thought, all right, this is the evidence I required. Now he must acknowledge it. Now he can't shield her further. I held off until home and relayed all I'd overheard. His response shattered me. He didn't rage at Leela. He didn't express regret for doubting me. He suggested perhaps I misunderstood. He said Leela vents occasionally but doesn't intend harm. He said she might be stressed over her mother and directing it at the simplest target. He added I shouldn't have listened in regardless. I shouted at him, questioning how he could possibly justify her after my account. She deemed me dull and ordinary and claimed active efforts to persuade him to depart me, and his reply is excuses for her. He shouted back that I'd been antagonistic toward Leela for years, and perhaps she was responding to that. I said I'd strained to be kind to that lady, and she despised me from the outset. He suggested maybe a cause existed for that. We avoided speaking for 2 days post-argument, just coexisted in the apartment as outsiders. Eventually, he sort of apologized. Said he hadn't aimed to disregard me, that he'd spoken to Leela, that he desired us to resolve this. I inquired what exactly he'd convey to her. He said he'd request her to be more aware of her comments about me. Aware. She's conducted a campaign to terminate our bond, and he's going to request awareness. I told him that fell short. That I required him to establish a genuine limit with Leela. That she must recognize consequences for continued interference in our bond. He adopted that expression again. That annoyed look as if I demanded the impossible. He said I couldn't demand he discard a 20-year companionship over one eavesdropped remark. I said it wasn't a single remark. It was a recurring pattern spanning years, and if he couldn't recognize that, perhaps he chose not to. That occurred about 2 months prior. Marcus did converse with Leela. I'm unaware of precise words, but whatever, it failed since she's still ever present. Still phoning at odd times, still appearing at our residence, still sharing those social posts. And now she's issuing wedding requests. She desires to be his best woman rather than a best man. She wants to organize his bachelor event. She wants to deliver a toast at the reception. And Marcus is genuinely contemplating it all. When I firmly rejected the bachelor planning, she questioned if I distrusted my own fiancé, directly before him. With this guileless expression as if she weren't the issue. There's additional, much additional, but I must halt here as this is already excessively lengthy. I suppose I'm sharing because I seek external views. Am I insane? Is this standard best friend conduct and I'm merely too envious to perceive it? Because Marcus makes me feel like I'm unraveling. But my instincts scream this woman desires him solely, and he either fails to notice or refuses to. I adore him immensely, but I'm uncertain how much further I can endure. Update. Alright, so firstly, thanks to all who responded to my prior post. I reviewed each one, and truthfully, some brought tears. Not negatively. Just in a wow others recognize it too, I'm not mad way. Many advised fleeing, and I understand. Truly. But it's not straightforward when you've constructed a life with someone over 4 years, when you cherish them. When you perceive the individual beneath this chaos with Leela, but I acknowledge you. Anyway, matters have intensified dramatically since posting, and I need to release again because I'm literally trembling while typing. Actually, no, I'm not trembling, I'm enraged. There's a distinction, so post my last entry I resolved to hold a genuine dialogue with Marcus, not a clash. A proper, mature exchange where I presented everything calmly and allowed him to truly absorb it. I delayed until we both enjoyed a positive day, prepared his preferred meal, then seated him and stated we must discuss the wedding and Leela. He promptly displayed this expression like, oh no, not this. But I raised my hand and said I need you to genuinely hear this time. No defending, no justifying, just hear, and credit to him, he did. For once, I detailed everything. I recounted 4 years of occurrences, the birthday lodge excursion, the Portugal fiasco, the incessant calls anytime, her constant touches. The comments I overheard about me. I told him I cherished him above all but couldn't wed someone lacking my support. That marriage signifies teamwork, and currently it seems I'm rivaling his best friend for my fiancé. He remained silent as I spoke, and upon finishing, he inhaled deeply and said he hadn't grasped how severe it was for me. That he assumed I'd overstated due to jealousy, but hearing it compiled made him comprehend my burdens. He expressed sorrow. He said he'd converse with Leela again and impose actual limits now. I yearned to trust him. Lord, I yearned so much. So I inquired what exact limits those would be, and he began enumerating items like no late-night calls unless true crisis, no unannounced visits, more respect for our pair time. It sounded promising, but then I questioned the wedding aspects. About her as best woman and bachelor organizing, his expression shifted. He fell silent, then stated he still believed it would matter greatly to Leela to join his wedding group, that she'd supported him through all, and excluding her felt improper. I clarified I wasn't demanding total exclusion. She could attend as a guest like others, but her standing beside him at the altar as he weds me. After her actions, no, firmly no. He began claiming I was inflexible, that this was his wedding also, and he deserved input on his supporters. I said certainly it's yours too, but you're requesting I permit the woman attempting our breakup for years to be your best woman. How isn't that absurd to you? He said I was overdramatic again. That Leela wasn't attempting breakup. She was merely guarding. I vow if I hear that term again, I told him I wouldn't yield on this, it was non-negotiable. If Leela joined the wedding group, I wouldn't attend the wedding. He became distressed and said I issued an ultimatum unfair. I said no. Unfair is enduring 4 years with a woman despising me because you deny the evident. Unfair is nearing marriage yet feeling secondary. Unfair is you prioritizing her emotions over mine, then feigning surprise at my pain. We debated for hours, literally till 2 a.m. Tears, shouts, and once I seized my keys and nearly departed because I couldn't endure more. But I remained because I'm tenacious and also refused to flee when he's unreasonable. By night's end, he conceded Leela wouldn't be best woman. He'd request Derek as best man and Leela a standard guest. I thanked him and said I valued his eventual listening. He appeared fatigued, and so was I. We retired, and I thought perhaps progress at last. Incorrect, because next evening Leela arrived. Not randomly, Marcus invited her for discussion, he claimed. I was unaware until the doorbell, opening to her with that grin. She breezed past into our apartment like owning it and headed to Marcus in the lounge. I trailed and asked what's occurring. Marcus said he wished to inform Leela personally about the wedding group choice, since their long friendship merited direct communication. And I know, some might say that's considerate. But his delivery, his apologetic gaze toward her, instantly unsettled me. He informed Leela they discussed and opted for traditional wedding group, that Derek would be best man. He hoped she'd comprehend and remained vital to him, her face transformed, like a facade cracking. For a moment, true fury flashed before masking with hurt innocence. She asked if this stemmed from me, and before Marcus replied, I said yes, indeed. Because I deem it unsuitable for you beside my fiancé at our wedding, considering your views on me and our bond. She feigned confusion, asked my meaning, and I said I heard you, on the phone at Derek's, calling me dull and ordinary, working on Marcus leaving me. I observed her face throughout, and she seemed nearly glad it emerged. She faced Marcus and said she couldn't believe he shared that. It was private talk with her sister when upset. That I misconstrued context. Marcus began responding, but I interrupted and said no context needed. I heard you claim working on our split. What context justifies that? Then she surprised me. She chuckled and said, fine, you want confrontation? Let's confront. And she asked Marcus if he'd allow my accusations when he knows her feelings for him. I asked her meaning. Marcus appeared uneasy. Leela fixed on him, daring speech. When he stayed silent, she shook her head and said she couldn't continue, that she'd waited 4 years, but done faking. I asked faking what? And she said faking acceptance of him settling, that she'd loved him since teens, that all knew except me apparently, that she'd awaited his realization they fit, but he proposed elsewhere. And now supposed to witness his gravest error. I eyed Marcus. He avoided me, jaw clenched, floor staring like wishing disappearance. I asked if he knew, if he'd known perpetually Leela loved him. After eternity, he admitted yes. Always known. She declared years back preemie, and he'd said no reciprocation. They agreed friendship only, unaffected. I asked how he concealed that 4 years. How he observed my struggles with her, observed my self-doubt, observed my seeming madness and insecurity, never mentioning, oh, she's loved me forever, but ignore it. He said irrelevant since rejection. Leela vowed progression he trusted, telling would have amplified paranoia. I said more paranoia. I deserved paranoia evidently since instincts correct, and you manipulated me into believing I faulted. Leela stood observing with odd satisfaction, like desiring this. And it dawned, she arrived tonight anticipating explosion. She sought this clash, sought ruining my bond because if denied Marcus, ensure I denied too. I commanded her departure, not requested. Commanded, she eyed Marcus expecting defense, calming me, but he didn't. He stood. So she took purse and said fine, but unfinished. That Marcus would realize she correct, that I unfit, and exited. Door shut, I faced Marcus and demanded explanation. All completely, from start. He sat and spoke. Said Leela declared feelings post-college in Minneapolis. Caught off guard, saw her sibling like told her. She wept. Rough months, but she accepted, wanted friendship. He believed, thought she progressed, especially dating others. I asked upon my dating her words. He quieted, then admitted Leela opposed from beginning. Said unfit. No spark, mistake. He dismissed because Leela said that on all dates. All not novel. And he never shared this crucial detail. I asked if he felt romantically for her. True romantic, not friend. He denied, said family-like. I said you always claim, but family doesn't behave thus, Marcus. Family doesn't sabotage bonds. Family doesn't arrive exploding engagement. Sure, no feelings. From my view, you've shielded her at my cost 4 years. He annoyed, said no romantic for Leela. Loves me, proposed me, marrying me. But Leela oldest friend unsure cutting off despite out of line. I asked if planning continued friendship post tonight. He delayed answer, that pause revealed all. Said needs time think. All rapid, avoid regrettable choice. Like deciding fiancé or woman admitting breakup, effort some complex ethic. I said if needs think on friendship with interferer, perhaps larger issue than Leela. Perhaps issue engaged to non-prioritizer. He said unfair. Asking discard 20 years overnight. I said no. Asking safeguard bond from destroyer shouldn't be tough. If reversed, if Derek or friends did Leela's, no think time. Instant. We disputed hours again. Seems our communication now, draining long disputes. By end, unresolved. He repeated needs time, I repeated time what? Decide marry or keep side girlfriend. He angered at calling Leela girlfriend, said disrespectful. Disrespectful. To woman destroying bond. Sure, Marcus. I used guest room that night. Not fleeing, but couldn't bear proximity. Lay staring ceiling, reflecting 4 years. Each jealousy label. Each paranoia claim. Each her comfort over mine choice. And whole time knew her love. Knew let me feel insane. Next morning awkward. He attempted chit-chat like normal. I stared till stop. Said won't fake fine. Until Piper decision unsure standing. He asked another ultimatum. I said no, stating reality. Can't wed non-chooser. Simple. He worked, I sick called non-functional. Called mom, shared all. She liked Marcus always, but upon hearing Leela's eternal love and concealment, she exploded. Never trusted girl. Could tell from Leela's gazes at family meals. Said if Marcus no immediate cut, rethink engagement. Mom's validation both soothing and crushing. Unsure next. Marcus texted day, loves me sorry, needs bit more time Piper figure. No reply, what say? Take time deciding marry or elope childhood love. Oh, and Leela posted Instagram today. Old photo her Marcus high school prom. Went as friends, no dates. Caption, some things meant timing key, Marcus silent on it, so furious thinking despite love may be insufficient. Update later when occurs. Now waiting if chooses me or cancel wedding plan. Last update. Okay, this final update because nothing remains post-events. After last post, gave Marcus 3 days. 3 to decide choose me or retain Leela. Said no more begging or disputing. He knows needs, either steps or doesn't. Those days hellish. He attempted normal talks like no crisis. Asking dinner preference. TV comments pretending normalization, barely replied, just waited. Third night home said decided, braced unsure outcome. Part hoped grasped. Say cut Leela, sorry, chose me. Sat opposite said thought much. Loves me, once wed Leela crossed boundaries, understands hurt. But always but, said can't end 20-year friendship totally. Leela hard times, total cut cruel. Maybe reduced contact a while till calm. Reduced contact, a while till calm, asked serious, said seeking compromise. Middle we're all okay, said no middle here. Leela admitted love. Admitted breakup efforts. Posted Instagram declaring. Solution, reduced. He frustrated, said inflexible. Relationships need compromise, can't expect delete like non-existent. Said something clarifying all. Said maybe issue I never tried, grasp his Leela bond. History I can't rival. If more secure start, maybe none happened. Rival, said words face. Like competition lost all along. Stood, said right, can't rival Leela. Done trying, done secondary own bond. Done villain basic expects. Done waiting choice obvious never, shocked, asked done meaning. Removed engagement ring, tabled it. Said won't wed non-first putter. Deserve better than consolation, settled while back-burning true love. Backpedaled instant, said not mean that, twisting words. Can resolve if calm talk. Said talked 4 years, circles while defended woman wanting fail. Done talking, grabbed hand, please no, loves me, love life. Leela nothing compared, maybe believed. Mind thought loved more, but actions 4 years showed opposite, couldn't unsee. Said staying mom a while, get stuff ready. Hope he Leela happy, her goal all time. Tried stop leaving, not physical. Words, promises, apologies, all should have said years back, now too late. Past, grabbed bag, left. Mom held crying 3 hours night, not missing already. Morning wasted 4 years non-chooser. Angry self not gut trusting sooner, because restarting life now unplanned. Marcus texted non-stop since. Huge mistake, anything, Leela nothing, no responses. Nothing changes, learned standing with him. And yeah, saw Leela posted another old photo day after left. Her Marcus some past wedding, her bridesmaid, him suit, her gazing like moon hanger, caption heart emoji. Guess got wanted, or maybe not. Because Marcus doesn't love her either, just couldn't release attention. Ego from 2 women wanting. Now alone with friend, never just friend. Honestly deserve each other. I'll be okay. Better eventually, but now glad over.